Hi guys, today we're going to talk about Pythagorean Theorem, which is probably something you've seen before several times in your other math classes, but we're just going to give it a little bit of review. Again, I'm going to go through all the odd problems, and then I'd like you to practice on the even questions. Alright, so Pythagorean Theorem, it's used to find the missing side of a right triangle, and that's really important that we're only using it with right triangles or triangles that have a right angle. Sides A and B are called legs. And side C is called the hypotenuse. And I'm going to make a note right here that that is your longest side. Okay, so our formula here is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so the first thing we have to do, let's go to number 1, is we have to identify which one is the hypotenuse. Now it really doesn't matter what you denote as a and b because those can be switched around, but c has to be our hypotenuse, which is our side across from the right angle. So let me do that one more time right here. So that's going to be x in this case. So in order to set this up, we're going to do 8 squared plus 13 squared equals x squared. So when I do 8 squared plus 13 squared, I get 64 plus 169 equals x squared. So I get 233 equals x squared. Now notice 233 is not your final answer. How do you undo something squared? Is I have to take the square root. So to 2 decimal places, when you do that in your calculator, you get 15.26. All right, number 3. So right here, C, or your hypotenuse, is going to be 9. So x squared plus 7 squared equals 9 squared. Okay, so to write this out, x squared plus 49 equals 81. Now, again, you want to get the x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 49 from both sides. And x squared equals 32. Again, 32 is not your final answer. You have to take the square root of both sides in your calculator. And to 2 decimal places, that gives you x equals 5.66. All right, number 5. So you notice on this one, you don't have a right triangle, but you do have something that you can work with. So the base right here is 22, and you know that these lines mean that they're congruent. So this is also going to be 24. So what we can do is we can split this guy up on the bottom, and this will be 11, and this will be 11, and we can form that right triangle there. Okay, so therefore we have a right triangle with 24 being our hypotenuse. So we have x squared plus 11 squared equals 24 squared. Remember, you can switch around the x squared and the 11 squared, that's fine, but 24 has to be your hypotenuse. So we get x squared plus 121 equals 576. X squared equals 455. When we subtract 121 from both sides, take the square root of that, and to 2 decimal places, I get 21.33. Okay. All right, number 7. So this one's going to be a little bit more involved because you notice that you actually have 2 right triangles going on. Because remember, if this is a right triangle here, I'm also going to have a right triangle on the left-hand side. All right, so what I want you to do is just focus on the right triangle for now. Okay, and so I'm going to label this bottom part y for now. Okay, so you have a right triangle, and we're just going to try and find the bottom part y. All right. So we have y squared plus 12 squared equals 29 squared. 29 being your hypotenuse. So y squared plus 144 equals, let's see what 29 squared is, 841. So y squared equals 697. So when you take the square root of both sides, you get 26.4. So that's going to be the base there. Okay. So now, remember, that's only going to be from this point on the bottom all the way over to the right. In order to find x, we need to find all the way from the end all the way over. So I'm going to now label this side z, okay, and you're going to need to find that base as well. So z squared plus 12 squared equals 14 squared. So same process here. Z squared plus 144 equals 196. Z squared equals 52. And z equals 7.21. So let's go ahead and label this. So z equals 7.21, y equals 26.4. So in order to find the whole length of x, all we're going to do is add them together. And therefore we're going to get 33.61. And that's your final answer. All right, number 9 looks a little bit more complicated than it actually is, okay? So one thing to notice is that it says 26 is here. So that means since this is a rectangle, the bottom is 26, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do 40 minus 26. And 40 minus 26 is 14. But I notice I have two pieces I'm going to split that into, okay? So 14 divided by 2 is 7, so that means 7 has to go to the left and 7 has to go to the right in order for the total length on the bottom to equal 40. All right, now I know that if this is x on the left, this has to be x on the right. So now I have a right triangle formed here with x as one of my legs, 7 as one of my legs, and 20 as one of my legs. So x squared plus 7 squared equals 20 squared. So x squared plus 49 equals 400. Subtract 49 from both sides. Take the square root, and x equals 18.73. Okay. All right, lastly, we're going to do a couple applications. You see it a lot as like a ladder leans up against a house or something like very similar to that. Okay, so number 11, it says Kurt is building a rectangular deck. If the dimensions of the deck are 10 feet by 23 feet, what is the length of the diagonal? So let's draw a rectangle here. So it says 10 by 23, and we want the length of the diagonal. So we know if it's a rectangle, it has right angles, and we want the length of the diagonal. So I'm going to label that x, and that's going to be my hypotenuse. So to set this up, 10 squared plus 23 squared equals x squared. 100 plus 529 equals x squared. So that's 629 equals x squared. And when I take the square root, that gives me 25.08 feet. Because we're talking about feet here, always check, since that's your hypotenuse, that should be the biggest side length. So 25.08 is bigger than 10 and 23. All right, last one, number 13. It says a 31-foot support wire is attached from the top of a 25-foot telephone pole to a point on the ground. How far from the pole's base does the wire meet the ground? All right, so we have the top of a 25-foot pole, and we're going to draw this triangle here. All right, so it's a 31-foot wire, so that means the wire is 31 feet to the ground. And we want to know how far from the base does the wire meet the ground. So 31 here is going to be my hypotenuse. So x squared plus 25 squared equals 31 squared. All right, so 25 squared is 625. 31 squared is 961. So x squared equals 336. We'll take the square root. And so finally, x equals 18.33. What are we talking about? Feet here. Feet. Okay. So again, go back and try the evens on your own, which is about, I think, 6 problems there, and check your answers. And that's all for Pythagorean theorem.